the first piece that I sang for you was Die Junge, which is a German art song written by Franz Schubert, set to poetry by Jacob Niklaus Kreger. Franz Schubert was a German composer and pianist who lived in the 1800s, making his work a product of the Romantic classical period. He wrote a wide variety of music, including piano, chamber, symphonies, vocal, obviously, opera, and spiritual music. So he covered a lot of ground with his work. He was very well regarded because his complex melodies and harmonic shifts brought a lot of depth and meaning to the music that he was writing, and he often wrote to poetry. In his vocal music, in art songs especially, he brought a lot of meaning to the poetry that he was writing it to, so his is kind of regarded as a new style of music, which the importance was equally on the music and the poetry. So he was kind of doing a new thing in his time. Die Junge Nonna was written in 1825, and like I said before, was written to the poetry of Jacob Niklaus Kreger. And it has a lot of complex harmonic shifts. It is very descriptive, and his music brings a deeper meaning to the poetry. The poetry tells the story of a nun, or a girl deciding to become a nun, to join a nunnery. And she is feeling a lot of internal conflict because of, well, we can assume that there's a romantic interest outside of the nunnery. So we know this because the poetry uses a lot of terms which are a little suggestive of a romantic relationship, although she never says it outright in the song. Terms that are just weird to be using when you're talking about a brewing storm like she is, such as like bridegroom. She talks about being trapped in a tower and needing to escape, which is often associated with a romantic interest. So that's kind of what the song is about. Some of the challenges that I faced in this were, so at the end of long phrases, there are those continued sustained notes, and I did a lot of work on continuing the vowel placement, correct vowel placement throughout those sustained notes. Then there was this one portion where it goes sort of into a lower range for me, and so I switched into my chest voice in that part, so there's sort of an interesting flip that goes on there. And then there was this one really difficult section, just counting wise and matching up with the piano, so I had to work that one a lot in order to get it right. But I did, eventually. Then this song is special to me because I have ancestry from Germany, and my grandmother, although she wasn't sent to a nunnery, she was sent away to a boarding school. So I can imagine that she felt really similarly to the girl in this song, maybe feeling like her life is being taken away from her, or that things are unfair. My next piece was Malia, written by Paolo Tosti and Rocco Emanuele Pagliara. Tosti was an Italian composer who lived in the late 1800s to the early 1900s. He is very well known for his light and expressive songs, so he wrote a lot of simple melodies, but they had a lot of meaning. He only ever wrote vocal art songs, which is interesting because he really could have spread out with his writing, but decided to just stick to that one category. So he was, well, he didn't always set his music to other people's poetry, but his best known works were set to someone else's poetry. He was very well regarded by the British royal family. So he lived in Italy but went to work in England for a time, and they really loved his music and they just got along really well. So they made him their singing master. So the royal British singing master, which is a very cool position to be in. And he was also eventually knighted for his music skills. And he taught in the Royal Music Academy. So a lot of accomplishments for one man. Malia was written in 1887, and literally translated in English, it means enchantment. So this song was originally written for a tenor and has now a lot of sopranos sing it. But the poetry is about a man who sees a woman and he's just absolutely captivated by her beauty, and talks a lot about how he's been enchanted by her, and she gives him a rose and he falls like madly in love, and it's all about that first moment, just that instant connection that he feels with her. And so it's a little difficult to sing as a woman when you haven't been in that position, but it's often done as a woman's piece. So you kind of have to shift the meaning around, but it's a beautiful piece. And it's very simple and repetitive in the melody, so it allows for a lot of expressivity in your performing. Some challenges that I faced were basic Italian dialect challenges. So, well, actually, this song is sort of interesting because it has a large amount of quarter notes which have multiple syllables on that quarter note. So the biggest challenge for me in learning this was spitting out all those syllables in a very short amount of time, while also taking the time to properly pronounce the Italian and give time and importance to every syllable. So one of the words that I focused on was duo, finding the emphasis on the first part of the word. And of course, your double consonants and long vowels. Then another challenge I had was, although this song is a waltz, it takes some effort to make it seem like a waltz. So instead of letting the piano lead, I really had to take the lead and make it into the forward moving song that it's supposed to be. So that was probably my biggest challenge with this piece, other than the Italian language. And the song was special to me because I thought at first, when I got it, I wasn't super excited about the song, just because it is simple and it's a lot in the middle of my register, and I'm used to kind of singing things that are a little more exciting, I guess, in their melodies. And so I wasn't super excited about this piece, but it became really meaningful to me because I realized while working on the song, number one, it's really good for me because of all the work in the middle part of my register, and I kind of am working on evening that out and bringing the same ring that I have in the upper part of my voice and the control into the middle and lower parts of my voice, and taking room for expression. Even though it is a really simple song, it really, it's such a beautiful poetry, and taking the time to use that poetry and interpret it and show it the way that it deserves to be shown. So those were my pieces that I did for juries. Thank you for listening.